So, Jordan, obviously 2025 is a pivotal year for Clemson football. All the national talking heads have been talking about Clemson all offseason, how much great returning talent, great returning starters they have, how this is the year for Clemson to make a legitimate run to the national championship, how they should be expected to make some noise in this postseason. All of that has been said. All the reasons have been laid out why. But obviously this year, like most seasons with elite college football teams, you're going to go as far as your quarterback can take you. And that is going to be true of Clemson this year. Although there's a ton of talent around Cade Klubnik this year in the wide receiver room, you look to have an improved offensive line, returning 4 of your 5 starters there. Ton of talent, right? You got some new faces in the running back room that look hungry and ready to contribute. But really it boils down to your offensive coordinator and your quarterback. Are they on the same page? Are they going to be able to – is your quarterback going to be able to execute what the offensive scheme is? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight, Jordan. Does Garrett Riley need to trust Cade Klubnik more? Obviously, last season, Cade Klubnik did a complete 180 from his first season starting as the Clemson quarterback. His first season was bad. Let's just be honest. He was a turnover machine. He made a ton of mistakes. He forced the ball. He didn't have a great understanding of what he was doing out there. And then the offseason came, and he just grinded. And he went out and he worked with Jordan Palmer over in California, and he worked with the Manning Passing Academy, and he did all this stuff in the offseason to kind of improve. And then he came out last year and improved in a big way. Obviously, the first game of the season, notwithstanding, that didn't go great for Clemson. However, you could see the progression as the season went on, culminating with that Texas game, that playoff game that Cade played with the secondary that was probably one of, if not the best secondary in the country last year. Did not allow a lot of touchdowns, did not allow a lot of yards, and they were just kind of locked down. They had a lot of good players, cornerbacks and safeties alike, and Cade Klubnik in the latter part of that game really carved that defense up. So, Jordan, tell me, does Garrett Riley need to trust Cade Klubnik more? Do they need to turn Cade Klubnik loose and allow him to play and make decisions as the senior quarterback that he will? What are your thoughts?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, to give kind of some background. I watched a video today from none other than Brooks Austin. Maybe some of you in the chat are familiar with him. Over on the Film Guy Network, he does a lot of stuff. He mainly covers Georgia, but he covers a lot of college football content. He does film reviews. It's a really, really good watch. If you ever want to learn more about the game of football from a X's and O's standpoint, I highly recommend his channel. He has a very strong understanding of the sport. But he did a Cade Klubnik breakdown today.
He don't sugarcoat anything.
Oh no, he don't. No. He's very, very much meticulous about his criticisms and his praise. So,
yes. Yeah.
And he's a huge Cade Klubnik fan, and he did a film breakdown today. It dropped today, so I recommend if you guys haven't watched it to go watch it. It's really good stuff. Kind of opened some eyes about some of Clemson's deficiencies from last year, but where do they need to get better? Where does Cade need to get better? Where does the team around him need to get better? But one of the things that really stuck out to me was, when he talked about Clemson's game plan in that game, especially early on.
Absolutely.
As much love as Cade got for his performance in that game, the first 3 quarters really, or maybe the first 2.5.
2.5, yeah,
were really unimpressive from a game plan standpoint, and very tight and scared from a game plan standpoint. Obviously, if you guys remember, he didn't really have much of a running game. Bill Maffa was a shell of himself. Yeah. Adam Randall moved to wide receiver. Jay Haynes tore his ACL. Adam Randall moved to running back. Yes. Jay Haynes tore his ACL in the in the ACC championship game. And so you were kind of in a really, really tight, tough situation in terms of, kind of your personnel and your ability to generate a run game against one of the best defensive lines in college football that Texas had. But I do think that, when you watch that game, and this is something that Brooks pointed out, it was very tight. There was a lot of dinking and dunking. There wasn't a whole lot of pushing the ball downfield. It seemed like it took too long for Clemson to start letting things loose, and then it started midway through that third quarter, or towards the back half of that third quarter.
Yeah, I mean,
they finally started to just push the ball downfield, and the concepts were curated to get guys open down the field.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things that made me really want to talk about this, because when Clemson plays in these big games, at a certain point, you got to let your quarterback be your quarterback.
You got to cut it loose, man.
Yeah.
You don't win games against teams like that playing conservative, playing not to lose, right? You just don't win big games like that playing like that, right? And that's nothing new. Everybody knows that. When you play scared, when you play timid, when you play to not make mistakes in big-time college football games like that, you're going to get beat. And to your point, they didn't really open it up until they kind of had to. When you looked up at the scoreboard and you're like, well, we ain't got nothing else to lose, right?
Yeah,
Let's
cut down 21 points.
And then they started cutting it loose, and Cade Klubnik started carving up a secondary that had been unpenetrable for majority of the season, right? Their stats were crazy. Go back and look at Texas's stats in the secondary coming into that game. It was absolutely insane, which is why the matchup was not great for Clemson, because they were coming into the game with essentially no running game. And I thought it was interesting when he was breaking down the Clemson film, and you kind of like, because watching a game sometimes you're like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? He does a really good job of explaining, from his perspective, what the offensive coordinator is thinking, right? Why he's calling what he's calling. Why does the game plan seem to be what it is? What are the concepts? Why is Cade doing his read certain ways? So if you guys want to understand the game from that level standpoint, like, encourage you to go watch it. It's a really good watch. And essentially we were doing dinking and dunk passes because we didn't have a running game. We were trying to use that to open up the downfield passing later. But to your point, Jordan, it just took a little too long to get there. And once we did get there, I mean, you saw Cade started making some really elite level throws and making some really good decisions.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I think the biggest step for this offense needs to come from. I mean, you have to let Cade, your senior, your third year starter, fourth year guy in the program, be your guy. Especially since we have the questions at running back coming into the season, in terms of an unknown, and because you have all of this talent out wide, and because you have so much experience on the offensive line and quality depth potentially for the first time in a long time, like, you need to let Cade be himself. And I think that's the thing that I felt like in that Texas game, it took too long for that to happen. I understand the game plan, and it's a sound reasoning why they did what they did, in terms of, okay, we can't run the ball against this Texas group. The defensive line is too good. We don't have the depth at running back. It is what it is. I understand what you did. We'll pass the ball short. We'll get their defense to come up, and then we'll take shots. But you did that, and then you didn't take the shots.
Then you didn't
take
the shots.
Like, right. I mean, there were points where they tried, but it was never to the point where Texas really had to respect it. And Texas is, and to Texas' credit, their secondary was phenomenal. I mean, even in that game, and they gave up a ton of yards, like, they still had some moments of brilliance. I mean, Jahdae Barron is incredible. Andrew Makuba was great in that game. Obviously you had Manny Muhammad. You had all of these guys on that back end that scared you, and then of course the front seven for Texas certainly made things really, really difficult for Clemson.
Yes.
So like I understand all of that, but when you just let Cade do what he does in that back half of that third quarter and that fourth quarter, all of a sudden it goes from 31 to 10 to 31 to 24, and you have a legitimate chance to win the game. Now, obviously, the defense let you down at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
but like you had that, if you had come into that game with that mentality, maybe the defensive performance notwithstanding, you have a better chance, and you're not having to dig yourself out of the hole that you had to dig yourself out of in the back half of that game. And that's if this team is going to win a national championship, if this team is going to make a playoff run, that's got to be the first thing that carries them. It's got to go through Cade. You got to let Cade be Cade and do what you brought him in to do.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And maybe hindsight's 2020, and you'll never know. You can maybe and what if things to death, obviously, looking back at a game. But if you would have started some shots downfield and just trusted Cade a little bit earlier in that game to make the right decisions, maybe you could have extended some of those drives, put up some more points, and not put your defense in some of the situations that they got put into, right? And Cade was not without mistake in that game.
No,
he got happy feet. He was looking to get out of the pocket a little too soon a lot of times, and I understand why. They had a really good defensive line, and he wasn't quite sure that our offensive line could hold up against those guys. Like, let's just be honest. That's the reality of it. That's what he was thinking, because there were times, a couple times, when you go look at the tape where he escaped the pocket, that the pocket was fine. Like, you didn't need to go anywhere. If anything, you needed to step up into the pocket and deliver the ball instead of trying to break contain and it not going your way, right? So I think there's a lot of that there. But again, he showed the flashes of who he could be against an elite defense, right? Against a very, very good secondary when they knew you had to throw the ball. And he was still delivering great passes time and time again. And that offensive line was holding up as best as it could, because at that point they had pinned their ears back. They knew Clemson had to throw the ball. They knew they didn't have a running game to begin with, but two, the scoreboard dictated that, well, you can't really sit here and run the ball time and time again anymore. You gotta play catch up, right? So those were some key factors that I think went into the game. But on a more broad picture, talking about going into 2025, I couldn't agree with you more, Jordan, in the fact that Riley really needs to trust Cade this year, right? Clemson as a whole needs to give Cade the keys to this offense. Live and die by the decisions that your senior quarterback that's now been in this system for 3 seasons, live and die by his decision-making. It's not always going to be good, right? He's going to make mistakes, but you live with that, because you're probably going to have far more highs than you're going to have lows with the guy that's been in the system with 3 years, with a guy in Cade Klubnik that the level of dedication that this guy has to improving and becoming a better quarterback. And if you think that he didn't attack this offseason with the same intensity, if not more, than he did last year, you're wrong. Listen to the guy talking every interview that he's ever been in. He's like, I'm just trying to outwork Cade from yesterday. That's his mentality, right? So you have to go into this 2025 season. If you're truly going to make the run that we hope Clemson will this year, it's going to be because of Cade, right? You got to give him the keys to the castle, man. You got to give him the keys to the offense. Don't play conservative. Hey, Cade, it's on you, brother. You make a mistake, hey, we're going to stand with you. You make a great play, hey, we're going to stand with you, right? Because like most college football teams, like, you're going to go as far as your quarterback takes you, right? And I believe Cade can take them to the mountaintop this year. I really do. I think that's a possibility. Will it happen? I don't know. A lot of things have to fall in place between now and then. But I think this team, this roster with this quarterback is capable of that. I just want to see them cut it loose. Don't be scared. Don't be scared of failure. Don't be scared of making mistakes. Just go out there and play football and cut it loose.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it's probably going to work out for you more often than not.
And it starts in week 1, man.
Yes, it starts in week 1. Go out there aggressive, man. Don't spend that first quarter feeling out LSU. I want to see them like drive 1 attacking LSU downfield immediately. That's what I want to see. That level of aggression from the first offensive series of the season. I think that's what you need.
100%. And because you saw what happened when Clemson they played like how they wanted to and how they view themselves as. I mean, they did not go into last season thinking, oh, okay, we're just gonna, maybe hopefully we're gonna be able to be good on offense. Like, when this team was allowed to be, when the player and when this quarterback was allowed to be himself, that's when good things happen. And I understand why there were times where Clemson was afraid to let Cade be himself, because Cade being himself in 2023 was a lot different. So like I get it from that standpoint, but ultimately,
in 2023 it was a turnover, it was a bad decision, it was a catastrophic sack, it was a negative play.
Yeah. So but we've seen the maturation, we've seen the growth from Cade Klubnik, and this version of himself needs to be the focal point, needs to be the engine that makes this offense go. It's not going to be as good, as great, as excited as we are about the receivers. They still have to. The person throwing them the ball still has to be.
Yeah, it's about Cade Klubnik. It's about Cade Klubnik.
It's about.
We can talk about the offensive line. We can talk about the wide receivers. We can talk about how excited we are about the tight end room, the running back room. Oh, how's that going to shake out? What's that depth chart going to look like? At the end of the day, guess what? It's about Cade Klubnik and how he plays. Yep. At the end of the day, that's what's going to carry that offense.
Simple as that, man. So
give him the keys and let him cook.
Let him cook.
It's not all going to be great, but a lot of it will. If you just let him go out there and ball out.